Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to my 3 takeaways episode from the Nicky Billou interview that I just posted this past Monday. It's been so cool over the last, month and a half. I've been able to interview 2 people from Canada, and to me, it's just so cool because when I started the podcast, I knew I wanted to talk to cool people, and I started off being able to talk to a lot of cool people in Nashville, and now it's just expanded all across the country and now up to Canada, and it's just been super special for me to be able to expand my reach to people across the country and across the world. And I hope you guys have been able to gain tools and tips from all these people, and especially Nicky. I mean, this guy, he kicks people in the ass, and he gets people out of their comfort zone and gets them uncomfortable and gets them to take action that they would not take by themselves. And I know that he changes so many lives, and I can't wait to see everything more that he does and continue to follow him and continue to support him and see all the great things that he's able to accomplish and see all the great people that he is able to help as well. Before we get into the 3 takeaways, make sure you're subscribing to my Monday Motivation Trio 111 newsletter. Every single Monday morning, I want to set you up for success every single week. I give you 1 motivational quote, 1 inspiring video, and 1 badass workout to make you feel energized and motivated and ready to crush the rest of your week. Just go to nickcarrier.com/111-newsletter to get this in your inbox every Monday morning. Again, 1 motivational quote, 1 inspiring video, and 1 badass workout, nickcarrier.com/111-newsletter. Without further ado, let's get right into my 3 takeaways with Nicky Billou. Number 1 is place yourself in your uncomfort zone. He talks about how he is the master of kicking people out of their comfort zone, getting them uncomfortable, and making them take action that they would not otherwise take by themselves. But we can't always rely on somebody else to do that for us, right? We have to try to intentionally place ourselves in our uncomfort zone. And I've talked about it on a previous podcast, but one time I intentionally took a stand-up comedian class. I took a stand-up class or an improv class because I wanted to get uncomfortable. I wanted to put myself into a situation in which I had to gain a new skill, and I wouldn't be able to gain that skill if I didn't put myself in that uncomfort zone. And Nicky had a great story in the podcast where he talked about somebody in his mastermind said that they put it out in the world that they were going to launch a book in 90 days. And he hadn't even written the book yet. He had been procrastinating on it. And somebody was like, look, say out in the world that you're going to release it in 90 days. And then you're going to be forced to actually do it. And that level of urgency on him just made him act like crazy. So place yourself in an uncomfortable place so that you take action that you would not otherwise take. Takeaway number 2 is be specific with your goals and create an action plan. If you haven't heard me say that before, then this is probably your first time listening, and this is what I'm all about. If you're not very specific with your goals, then you don't know where you're aiming at. And if you don't know where you're aiming at, you don't know the strategy to take. You don't know the decisions to make or the decisions to avoid. And so when you're specific with your goals, you have to be very specific with your strategy. He talked about how he's at a 90-day sprint here at the end of 2020. He wants to get down to 29 inches with his waist, something that he hasn't been to in a long time. And he's like, I'm cutting out sugars. I'm cutting out bread. I'm making sure I drink like 80 ounces of water every single day because he knows those are the specific things that he needs to do to get down to that 29 inches. But if he had just said like, oh, I want to get thin or I want to lose a little bit of weight, like that doesn't help you create the strategy. The more specific the goal, the more specific the strategy to achieve that goal can actually be. Takeaway number 3 is kick resistance in the nuts before it kicks you in the nuts. And if you didn't listen to the interview, he talks about this towards the end of the interview, and it was absolutely awesome. It fired me up. It got my blood pumping when I was interviewing him. He talked about how a mentor of his is Stephen Pressfield, who wrote the book called The War of Art. And he talks about how resistance is the thing that every single day is kind of creating this gap between the life that you're currently living and the life that you ought to live, the life that the best version of yourself is living. Resistance is creating that gap. Resistance is the thing that tells you to press snooze on the alarm. It's the thing that tells you to eat that piece of cake. It's the thing that tells you that I'm too tired, I need to go take a nap. You need to kick resistance in the nuts before it kicks you in the nuts. And to me, I related this to a while back. I interviewed Eric Zimmer, the host of the One You Feed podcast, and he talks about in this parable how we both have a good wolf in us and a bad wolf in us. And then the parable ends by a grandchild asking his grandfather, which wolf wins? And the grandfather says, the one that you feed. If you feed the bad wolf, if you feed negative energy, then resistance is going to win. But if you feed the good wolf, if you stay positive, you stay motivated, the good wolf is going to win. So you have to kick resistance to the nuts. You have to feed the good wolf every single day before the bad wolf takes over or before resistance kicks you in the nuts. I hope you guys have enjoyed these 3 takeaways. I hope you enjoyed the podcast interview with Nicky Billou. That guy is a ball of energy. He fires me up. I can't wait to learn more from that guy. He's just amazing, great support system for me, and I know for many others as well. Make sure you're subscribing to the podcast. If you liked this episode or if you liked the Nicky Billou episode, make sure you leave a rating and review. It takes 2 seconds to do it. If you're on the Apple Podcast app, scroll to the very bottom, click 3, 4, 5 stars, whatever you liked. Make your comment on what the favorite takeaway was. That would be huge. Also, if you want to go watch the video of this, or if you didn't even know there were videos, you just got to go to nickcarrier.com/podcast. There I always have the most recent interviews. I also have my all-time favorite podcast interviews on there as well. So if you're new to the podcast, if this is the first one that you're listening to, you can go there and not waste any time and get right to my favorite interviews that I've done, this being episode 220-something at this point. I've done so many, and there have been so many great ones. So make sure you subscribe and rate the podcast. Make sure you share it with a friend or family member. You never know what this could do for them. It could create a huge spark in their life. They could be the ones that start kicking resistance in the nuts before they get kicked in the nuts. So subscribe to the podcast. Subscribe to the Monday Motivation Trio newsletter at nickcarrier.com/111-newsletter, because these takeaways, the things that Nicky talks about in his interviews, the things that I bring up in my Monday Motivation Trio newsletter, these are the things that are going to allow you every single day to get closer and closer to your best you.